Welcome back to the Disrupt Education Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Alli Privitt. Alli, how are you?
I'm good, Peter. How are you doing
Oh
today?
my gosh, I'm good. We just talked to three amazing youth, and I wanted to kind of jump into there, unpack that, and let's get down to it. So we had Noah, Caden, and Olivia. Where do you want to start? The three amazing youth. I mean, amazing.
I mean, so the series kind of, I feel like took this awesome turn, okay? Listening to three young people, amazing young people, all incredibly talented, incredibly gifted in their own ways. And they just asking them, they're in the system, right? They are actively in the system that we are talking about, and to hear them uh and their ways of wanting to disrupt the system and or how they are kind of thinking really deeply about um learning of course I was like, they're gonna rock it, but then they just really just blew our mind, right? So I'm gonna say like Caden. I'll just start with Caden because I mean his one line and just he was just the I don't know if it's the poet in me or what, but him just talking about learning, being this like fall in love with it, like romanticize it, and we heard pieces about that from Olivia and Noah, but it was just the way Caden said it that just clicked for me, and it's like that's something I've been doing my whole life, and I know that's something I've brought to the classroom, and I know the best educators do. But to hear it from a young person's perspective like that was just reinvigorating to me. What about you?
I think you can connect it. Yeah, you can connect that with all the learners. They really they were the self-awareness was incredible with all three. It was absolutely incredible, and I don't think I even have that kind of self-awareness now. And I'm over double their age. I'll just leave it there. But it was it was mind-boggling. And all I wanted to do now from here forward, after hearing these three amazing individuals, is how do we get more people to have that kind of, you know, to romanticize learning, to really like dig in and to see the big picture, and to really understand that there are small steps that make it happen, and that there is tangible pieces at the end of the road, and to self-direct. I mean, they all three of them had very similar ways of looking at learning, like you're talking about. But I think there was that, well, and I think there was that self-actualized awareness that was in there. I That's all I've been teaching the last week in my school around like business. And the kids are really starting to pick up on it. It's very interesting. It's I can attach any curriculum to it now. It's pretty amazing. I'm not at 100%. I think we all like strive for 100%, but I would say more of the kids are, you know, we watched a video about learning styles, and then actually there really is no such thing. It's how is a wonderful professor from University of Wisconsin Whitewater talking on a TED Talk. I will hook it up in the notes of this, but she really talks about, it doesn't matter if it's meaningful to you, then you will learn it. And if you have to read it, if you have to hear it, to see it, if you have to work with it, we all have tendencies, but there isn't one learning style that we can learn with, and that's it. And it was an amazing thing. And when I said that, and I worked with the students on that, they were like, oh yeah. And so now how do we make it meaningful? And I think all three of these individuals really made their learning meaningful.
I don't know about you, but I didn't think about education like they did when I was going through the system. And and so for me, it's interesting just to hear like how they're thinking about school. Like I just felt, and I don't know if it's hard to like really go back, but I kind of felt like a cog in a wheel, or like I felt like I go to school, I learn the things, I do the work, and then my next step is college. And I didn't ever like question it. it wasn't that it was like maybe there probably were other options, but that was what was presented to me and I just accepted it. But what I heard from Olivia and Kaden and Noah is that they are questioning what they're looking for in their education far beyond what I ever did. And so I wonder, like, did we just happen chance pick individuals that are just super woke and whatnot? Or are these the types of conversations that people are having more? So it from your perspective, especially in the entrepreneurial space, like I feel like you'd have different conversations with your students than I would like in a core class. So it, have you noticed a shift, and can you kind of think about like when you really started to notice the shift with, in even in your time of podcasting, like what are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I will say, in the past 20 years, the narrative of questioning higher education, excuse me, has gotten louder and louder by not only students but parents, right? And just hearing students ask why, right? And I don't know if it was just a generational thing. As millennials came through and as was it Gen Z? I'm losing track of them now, but like they question. And frankly, like there's two types of educators that I've seen. Ones that get pissed off, and then ones that are like, it's a good question. I mean, and I get it. I mean, I get both. There are generational gaps and there's misunderstanding and there's a lot of learning on all sides that need to be had there. But to your point, I would say, man, when it really heightened to me, was right around 2014, 2015. That's in my career. And part of that was that EF tour that I went on to where, I was lucky enough to go overseas and to really take a fabric of the United States at a school that I previously worked at, to really see what students could accomplish. And the question was, how do we make school better? Like, how do you make learning better and systems better? And there was a lot of data, there was a lot of stats. I think the biggest stat that I remember was the high percentage of colleges and universities at that time that said their graduates were ready, and then the extremely low percentage of the job market professionals and leaders were saying your college kids aren't ready. So there was a gap there, and they started with that. And so I think that started to lead to questioning. And then obviously you have these raising costs that are just exploding. And there's a lot of different conversations we can have about that and why that's happening. But in the narrative, it went from, for me, and I feel like it is for you, but like my parents were like, go get a degree and then you go get a job and then it's pretty good. And I didn't really have an option. So I was told I was going to go to college. So I went to college, right? But I didn't really like my path. I love a lot of the things I did in school, but I didn't feel like it all connected. So that narrative, even today, having a son that is a senior in high school and going on, is get the degree. These are our famous alum, and here's our great facilities, right? And that's okay. I get it. Like it is a social event, right? But I think people are like, why am I paying $100,000 plus taking on loans that I'm still paying off into my 40s for a social event? How can I pay these back? How can you help me pay them back by giving me skills and connections and things like that? So I think that's where the questions are. And my personal questions are, what percentage of your students have jobs in their field of study? What are the classes all the way through freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, in that level of a traditional post-secondary college or university? Where are the real companies coming in and working in any type of class? I don't care if it's, biotechnology or, world lit or anything, right? Where are those companies? And, where's the profile, right? I still just had a diploma and I still just had a GPA in college. That's real. I didn't have certifications. I didn't have uh, a I didn't even have a resume looking back, although that's kind of going away. But like, where's the digital portfolio? And then, I would like to see rather like companies buying buildings and putting their names on it, or CEOs and different things like that. I would rather see them, interacting. I really don't care if your name's on it or not. I want to see, what does that mean, so that's kind of like, I think that's exploding right now. So that was a long answer, but that's kind of where
Oh,
my
I
mind.
love this because, you know, when I think back to Olivia and Keaton in particular, right? So Olivia started doing self-directed learning in high school and now is continuing that. And Keaton said on his episode that he thought that really once we have the foundation around, like he was saying, like ninth, 10th grade, like we need more application. And so what you're kind of getting at with the college experience, and I feel like youth and parents who have youth or anybody in education really should be having these questions. And it's like I'm not anti-college. Like I mean, I
Right.
went to undergraduate, went to grad school, like love the learning system. But how do you, if I'm a college, if I'm a university, and we just were looking at stats right before we started this episode that only a third of students in public universities complete their degree in 4 years. So where are the rest of them going? And 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 right, and you still have that price tag. So like, how do you justify the cost? What is that diploma mean anymore? I don't think it means the same thing even from when I graduated college in 2010 to whenever you graduated college before that. Like, right, like the steps aren't as linear, but then what do we what do colleges have to do? I mean, I don't have the answer to that, but I'm just, if we're trying to disrupt education in a way that's meaningful, how can we help these self-directed learners have more application, have more community connection, have more business, modeling or partnerships or whatever that looks like, which is what you're talking about. And like the script needs to change fast,
Right.
right? Like how quickly, if that's just happening in the last, like, right, 2014, and I feel like more and more students are having these types of conversations. What other things do those who care about the educational system need to be doing and thinking about radically in order to make these shifts before potentially the system implodes?
Yeah. And I'm gonna kind of bounce off of what Olivia's doing. It's the speed of learning, right? Um, and I think one of the things that she said, and I've actually tweeted out a couple of times as well, is like, learn fast, but reflect deeply, right? Um, it, I think she just wants the educational system to get out of her way. And that's kind of why she went to the Praxis, which is an amazing, quick day one or day three, you're doing a project. So let's take a look at traditional education. And it's still this way in certain senses. And there are, things out there that have changed, but your typical, once you go into the next 4 years, I hear it all the time with students that the first 2 years are, you got to get your basics out of the way. Well, if you know what you want, and why? Like, why? Is it a money grab, or is it the well-rounded, or I don't know, and I'm not gonna like say it's good or bad, but I think there is a huge piece of our population right now that are really interested in those first years. Let's just say I did go to a university for 2 years, and then it wasn't for me, or maybe financially I wanted to take a break, or whatever. Wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of earlier certification slash, and I know there's like associate's degrees and different things like that, but let's look at a 4 year, why not take a gap year in the middle of it? And then, like, right when you go into it, you go for it. Like, you go into computer science, you go into biology, you go into whatever you want, and you're working with companies right away. and I think there's a segment of our, so if you walk out, or you can, yes, and work while you're in college and make a difference, just like we're talking about high school. I think that model can and probably should work at a lot of these universities that are struggling to get students to apply, because there is real skills no matter where they exit, they have them. I paid 25 to 35 to $45,000 for this 1 year, right? Even if I leave after 1 year, I should have some sort of skill set along with the academics that, may not be the best, but it's going to give me something to help me pay back that. That's the way I see it. So
rather than, a piece of paper that still just has course and letter
yeah.
grade, course and letter grade. Like if I had stopped college after 1 year, I don't know how I would, kind of have marketed myself. I mean, like, I don't know what story that tells.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like now I could go back and do that. But, in that moment, being 18, 19, 20 years old, right? Not everyone is so, self-aware as these three individuals
Yeah.
of how to kind of self-direct their learning, and then also ask those questions about what they want out of their educational system. And I mean, I think there's something to be said about for some people, like they honestly don't know what they want to
Mhm.
do, but why go down a 4-year track just to come up with the same answer? They're like, I still don't know what I want to do, and now I have a degree.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I do reflect on mine, and I graduated in 95. And I kind of found something that I was interested in, but my internship didn't match really with what I was really interested in. And I think that was the problem with me. And my internship, for those who've heard, I've probably said this on thousands of podcasts, but like my internship was in radio, and I was a broadcast journalism major, right? So I really love being behind the camera and editing and doing all the things I'm doing now. I feel like, part of that would have been better represented throughout all 4 years if I had time. Like you said, if I walked away from my first or second year, I still would have had this portfolio. I still have had some connections to work with. And I think that would have helped give me clarity until waiting. So I think one of my whys in education, especially as an educator in high school, is to try to expose kids, because I felt that pain of, oh my gosh, I just did an internship at the end of my entire college career. I don't know what to do next, and I'm going to have this piece of paper. I don't want that to happen to other people, and that's really ingrained in who I am. And so I think, I think there's a huge opportunity for universities, colleges, even community colleges. I mean, do we micro credentialing? I think that's being talked about. How can we help students along the way? Do they have to go 4 years in a row? Does it have to be 4 years? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different. I think we need to question all of this.
We need to question everything. And, thinking back to Noah's episode too, like he really blew my mind when he was like, he is the ultimate test taker.
Yeah.
And he was like, get rid of tests. Like
Yeah.
they actually don't serve a purpose. So now I will say, for, if there's someone who wants to be like a surgeon or a lawyer, something technical that, has a need for testing. I think they're certainly need them for certain purposes, but why is that still the main modality for assessing learning? And I mean, being an educator, like I gave tests like every single year I taught, like I was fully, entrenched in that model for assessing learning. And I felt like at the time it was a great way to streamline dealing with, however many students I had in a particular year, to kind of gauge at least where they were at. I didn't view the test as like, oh, this is the stamp of approval, like you have learned the material or not. But yet it seems like the educational system in general tends to view tests that way, because why? you take the ACT, the SAT, and or an AP test, some kind of predictive testing model, and then that can determine your future.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gateway. So I, I don't, my brain is like, how do we even eliminate that from the educational system, or how do we, blow it up? And I know in this series we've had people talk about like just making small changes. You don't have to, blow everything up, but why can't a school or a community decide like we're going to do things differently, and just why not see if it's different? You're gonna have to give it some time to like, and it's probably gonna mess up and not be so great at the beginning, but it's
Right.
not like our system is perfect right now. And I think we need to stop pretending that it is. I mean, I don't know. Some people probably are pretending, but just that we need to keep doing it. It's like the sunk, like, isn't it the sunk fallacy or sunk loss fallacy? Like the more you put into it, like we've been
Mhm.
doing this traditional model for so long that like, well, what if we change it? What would
Right.
happen?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it's a safety valve. We're padding it. We're teaching people learned helplessness, right? So, and I use that term a lot with my students, and they, half the battle in the traditional system, which I'm still in and working with, is, and I actually enjoy the battle. It's kind of creepy, but like, but it is about helping them unlearn that. Like they need to unlearn the fact that I'm like the one all be all. And I have gone to an ungrading method where, yeah, I still have to put points into some sort of spreadsheet somewhere or whatever, but I'll be darned if they don't walk out of there with some sort of portfolio and story of their learning. And it doesn't matter if a kid sells 5 million items or loses and never sells anything in their entrepreneurship class. I want to know what they did and how they did it and what they learned from it. So I think when you're talking about a traditional system, you're right, we're almost afraid to change it. But I think you know, if we have very supportive and understanding mentors, coaches, accountability partners, social emotional workers, we can guide anybody. And, let's be honest, those three that we had are resilient. All our kids are really resilient. I'm not going to deny there's some challenges in there, but I think that we can help people understand that failure and screwing up is learning. So if we try to keep everything perfect in education, we stop learning. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And I think that's the biggest frustration with you and I. I mean, we want to go beyond the score, yet we still can't get beyond the score. Although I think, the push-pull system, and there's a lot of people talking about the push-pull system. Um, it is now like the pull of what, when you walk out of an educational system, what can you do, right? And I can do A's. Well, I think Noah taught us that, yeah, I can do A's, but after the next half hour when I got that A, I don't remember any of it, right? But then what can you do? Like, he can play an instrument or several instruments, right? So there you go, right? There's just a lot of different things that you can do. And then I think we're in the show me category of education. And I think it's coming around. I think it's going to come around faster because the market's going to demand it. And whatever the market demands is where usually people go. And I think the more people do, the more we can help everybody. I mean, I don't think that score is helping anybody, to be honest. I think, yeah, maybe it is with some confidence and different things like that, but I don't want to completely dismiss it. But I really think that's going to be the change that is going to come sooner than later. And it's there's a market behind it, right, Alli? There's places behind it that will say this is the best school, this is our school, that's a good school, like high school, middle school, elementary, colleges, whatever. Well, I think we really need to redefine that. Like we need to really start asking questions: is what makes it really good? I mean, is it because you have a bunch of kids with a extremely high ACT or SAT score? Is it because you have a high graduation rate? Maybe, but what else, right? Where are those really tangible 97% of our kids have a job in their field when they walk out of here, and they're connected continuously with a company or companies. Their network is minimally 200 people in industry. Like, where are those numbers? Those are the numbers I think that are going to pull at least the next generation into what a great school is.
I don't know about you, but this series and kind of having these conversations around, education as purpose and really what is the purpose of a score and how can we go beyond it, and seeing the student perspective. But who we have not yet talked to? We haven't talked. I mean, we're educators, but we have not really brought in teachers who are in the system and or maybe just outside the system, or in the system but pushing back on the system. And I don't know about you, but I think we need to have those conversations come up moving forward in this series.
I think it's a done deal.
Okay.
I know we have some educators coming up, so that's going to be the next part. It's really cool to see like where people who have already gone through the system and or are doing some different things with the system way outside of it. Not, I shouldn't say way outside of it, but they're outside of the system, but everybody's ingrained in education, right, and learning. We've talked to students, and hey, you know what? We're going around the world. We're going to pull people in from in the system and just outside the system. I think you can look at you and I there. And also we have an amazing educator that you brought in, and I can't wait to talk to him as well. But I'll leave that out there just as a little bit of a carrot for people to and next. So but yeah, we're going to have these conversations. We are definitely looking at all angles around going beyond the score, and it really is creating a lot of questions. And man, I hope our listeners reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn. Man, I mean, some of the just look at the things that we're doing. Alli is all over the place in the air, jumping down, and really putting together a lot of thought-provoking social media posts out there, and doing some workshops and all different kinds of things as well. I get to go to a couple of associations and work with them, and we're open for conversations. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride, Alli.
Yeah, and for those listening, if you have a perspective that we have not heard of, we want to hear from you on this series, beyond this series, because disruptive education is all about having the tough conversations, but the needed conversations to move the needle forward. Because the more people that hear about this and even are aware of this, the more we can do, right? You can't fix a problem you aren't aware of or you don't even know. Like, there could be something different.
Absolutely. So reach out. The series continues, and I can't wait. Be patient with us. We do have a lot of people reaching out, and looking at different lenses, especially for the podcast. But thank you all so much for just hanging out with us today. We got some more great guests, and if you haven't heard any of the guests that we're talking about, you're just popping in on the podcast, go back we're well into this series. You'll just check it out on any platform that you're on, and you'll see some amazing people. Want to give a quick shout out to DistrictZero. Thank you so much. It's an amazing platform, and Spikeview as well. Take a look at our notes, and check out those amazing platforms. They are in line with what we're saying. So until next time, for Alli Privitt, I'm Peter Hostrawser. We'll see you on the Disrupt Education podcast.